Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're going to continue on with our 15mm Napoleonic project updates. Alright, as you know, I am in the process of writing my own rules, and I am painting up some 15mm miniatures to be used with my rules, and I'm currently focusing on the forces that are at Quatre Bras, but I will be expanding beyond that. It's just that that's the initial project. All right, now the unit you see on the screen right now is the first of the 95th Rifles. So you got the British 95th Rifle Battalion here, the 1st Battalion. Hopefully you like them. These guys, have the popular mini-series of Sharps rifles was following a group of chosen men from the 95th Rifles. So through Peninsula, through the Peninsula Wars, and then also through European, what do they call it, like the 100 Days battles, and they even went on to India, actually. Sean Bean playing Sharp. Yeah, so that's who these guys are. Well, at least this is a battalion. They're not the actual Sharps rifles, obviously. These are the 95th Rifles. There are 3 battalions at Waterloo. You got the 1st and 2nd Battalion in full battalion strength, and then 3rd Battalion was only in a couple of companies. But at Quatre Bras, only the 1st Battalion was there, and so I went ahead and painted up the 1st Battalion. Alright, let me show you my next unit that I've completed. Alright, so this next battalion, also in hunter green uniforms, was the Hanover Field Battalion. It's a Hanover Light Field Battalion from Lüneburg. So this is the Lüneburg Battalion. Field Battalion as part of Kielmanseg's brigade. You'll notice the officers are wearing like the light blue trousers, and sprinkled in you'll see a guy or two wearing green trousers. You might see this guy, a couple of guys here on the end wearing green trousers, and then others scattered throughout, maybe about 4 or 5 models with the green trousers. I wanted it to be just a little bit of variety in there, and looking at my research, it looks like they had like a mix in the units. It wasn't like all their elites were green or anything like that. It was just an intermix of green trousers. You'll notice that I'm using the Lüneburg flag there, and this flag is from Fighting 15s. Yeah. I went ahead and painted the Hanover battalion because I was on a roll with painting green battalions, right? So because I just finished the 95th Rifles, so I figured I knew there was a couple of battalions in Hanover that wore green as well, so I went ahead and put together the light battalion for Hanover, Lüneburg. mostly wearing British kit. This is another thing that I was able to do is use not only Old Glory Hanover models, but also Old Glory British models, because their uniform is exactly the same. The only variant is the type of headgear that they were wearing. You'll see quite a few of them with stovepipes, but you'll also see quite a bit of them with the Belgic Shako, which is kind of a new introduction to the unit. It was gradually being offered to the troops. All right, let's look at the next unit. All right, and this is the next battalion, which is also green, also Hanover. This is Grubenhagen, the Light Field Battalion from Grubenhagen, which is, as opposed to the Lundbergs, they actually had these little, one of the big differences are the officers are not wearing light blue pants, but also their little epaulet puffs on their shoulders are white. So they have like these little white epaulet puffs, and the entire battalion was equipped with gray trousers. So there was no intermixture of green that was being phased out, the green trousers. You'll also notice, or maybe you won't, it's just a little nuance. The buglers, the buglers in the Grubenhagen battalion, as opposed to the buglers in the Lundberg battalion, had different, they had red cuffs, right? They both had the red plume on their hats. They also had the red shoulders, but Grubenhagen, their sleeve cuffs were actually red as well, where the Lundberg, they retained the black cuffs. Very subtle difference. This is also a Fighting 15 flag. So when you buy the Kilmansegg Brigade, you get all the flags for the Kilmansegg Brigade, like Verdun and Bremen and all that. And you also receive a flag for the Jaegers. But when I put the Jaegers together, and you'll see them coming up real soon, I decided not to do a standard bearer for those. This is another Old Glory 24 figure battalion. You might have noticed on these last few battalions that I've been showing you that I'm using the middle brown instead of the dark brown. I just basically wanted to do a little bit of a change up. So most of the Hanover guys I'm going to be doing with the middle brown. Actually, I'm going to kind of alternate it around, like different battalions of different divisions are going to have different color dirt, and the flock might be different colors, etc. These I pulled out of my tub that had the stones in the flock, so you'll see stones scattered about the Hanover and all these. All right, let me pull out my next battalion. All right, and this is the Field Jaeger Corps of also Hanover. You'll also notice that they have the green uniforms. Now, the Field Jaegers are such a small unit, 300 plus men, as opposed to the 600 or 700 men of the other battalions, that I decided to base them as skirmishers. So these are 30 millimeter bases with 4 figures kind of in a square. It's a little bit different than the 40 millimeter bases with the 4 figures in a row. Now you'll notice these guys, pretty much all of these light battalions had very similar uniforms, but the Field Jaeger Corps had their collars and cuffs are a lighter green. So you got a light green collar and cuff and turnbacks as opposed to the black on the field battalions. And these musicians did not have the red. They just used the standard light green. A little bit of research before you do any painting, you know, that's invaluable. Okay, now these figures here are actually 95th Rifles, or at least British riflemen. So these are British rifles. I just painted them up as Hanover Field Jaeger Corps. I could have pulled a standard out and gave them the Fighting 15 Field Jaeger Corps standard, but because of the type of unit it is and the deployment in skirmish, I decided not to do that. All right, well, that was the 4 battalions that I had worked on since the last time we did a video. Now I want to show a little bit of paperwork as part of my progress. Okay, so looking at the French here, you can see anything that I've colored in blue are units or leaders or artillery pieces or whatever that I have completed. And the ones marked in yellow are basically just letting me know if I've already got their flag or not. Because a couple of these units here, I don't have their flags. But I've got all the figures. I just have to break them out and actually get them painted. All right, so the French really hasn't changed since the last time I showed everything off, but I did get the chasseurs and I did get the lancers finished. I was thinking about doing the dragoons next, but I'm going to hold off on doing the chasseur, the guard chasseurs and all that until after I get some of these line brigades finished. All right, so now looking over at the British, or allies, as you might call it. Where we got? We got the 95th Rifles right here that I was able to finish, as you just saw. And then down here we got Lundberg, Grubenhagen, and the Jaegers are complete. Now, the Duke of York, Hanover of York, is actually Osnabrück, I think. I need to take a look at that. And we're going to do that here in just a second. But you can see that I haven't really finished any of these brigades. I got pretty close with the Nassaus, but what I'm actually considering doing next are the are Brunswickers, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do these 4 battalions next, just to finish out Best's brigade, because I've got all these units already pulled and ready and bagged and ready to go. But I also have this North Gloucester unit because these all use like stovepipes, and these guys have stovepipes as well. And so basically I robbed Peter to pay Paul kind of deal. But I did get all these battalions, and even these 3 battalions, all set up. But Osnabrück, I have to pull something up, and we'll take a good look at Osnabrück. Let's go ahead and do that right now while I'm thinking about it. Hanover. Line infantry. Osnabrück. Now, if you look right there, it says Duke of York. Okay. Now, if I click this and the guy comes up with green uniforms, I'm going to have a heart attack. Oh, look at that. Oh, my gosh. I could have done another green. Oh, man. I had a feeling that Osnabrück was also green. Wow. Okay, well, they'll just have to be in my next wave of green troops. Not that there are any new waves of green troops. I just wanted to knock all the green ones out. Plus, they have the... I noticed that Hanover has, like, the yellow sashes. Nassau troops have the orange. Yeah, orange, as well as Dutch Belgians. British have, like, this... scarlet, I guess is what you would call them. I'm just going with any unit here. Yeah, they have like a scarlet sash. Okay. Well, okay, so there is another battalion out there that I should have done at the same time as this, but I wasn't thinking. All right, so let's bring up marshals and generals. Okay, so as you know, I'm working on my own set of rules, and basically each week I try to update the rules with some important piece of rules. I want to have them finished by next August, so I really need to crack down and work on these rules. The one thing that I'm working on right now is the turn order and command and activations section. I guess that goes along with movement, shooting and combat, all that stuff, but mainly the turn order. Now, what I've decided to do with the turn order is use a dice system so that every corps on the table will have its own color dice. So like first corps might be white, second corps might be blue, third corps might be green, or whatever, right? And then the number of dice in the bag. Now this is a pull bag. The number of dice in the bag will equal the number of brigades in that corps. So on the general average or so, you're going to have like 8 maybe. If I was to switch back to this, okay, and we looked at the French corps, right? So Bachelot has 2 brigades, that's 2. Pyre has 2, so that's 4. Jerome has 2, so that would be 6. Foy has 2, so that would be 8, right? So we'd have 8 die in the bag for Rial's second corps. Now, Kellerman would have a different color, and he would have 1, 2, 3, 4 dice. 1 for every brigade. Even though it doesn't matter about the number of divisions or any of that. And then as you pull dice, and then of course your opponent would have a set number of dice as well, based on how many brigades they have in their corps. And then you pull the dice, and then whatever that die color is applied to that corps. So like if Real pulls a die with his color on it, then we would go to one of his brigades, let's say Wathier's brigade, and then the units in that brigade would activate. And then the next die would be pulled, and let's say Real pulls another one of his dice, and he goes, okay, well, now I want Campy to move his brigade, and then his 4 battalions in his brigade would activate. And it would go like that, back and forth. Now, you might pull a red die, and then orange with the first corps might say he wants Halkett to go. And so Halkett would take his 4 battalions, and they would activate. And then you would place the die next to the brigade commander, like Halkett, letting everyone on the table know that his brigade has already been activated. And then once all the dice are pulled, it should mean that all the brigades have been activated, because there should be 1 die per brigade. And so once all the brigades have been activated, that ends the turn. You go into the end turn phase of the turn, which has not totally been hashed out yet. But once, and then the dice are all picked up and put back in the bag. If a brigade is eliminated, then its corresponding die would also be pulled out of the bag, and it would be it would not be able to be used anymore, because there's no brigade for it to use it on. So, and that's the name of that too. Now, I've been thinking about different commanders giving modifiers like extra bonus dice in the bag to sway the odds in your favor of your dice being pulled, etc., etc. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I just let you know that I am thinking about it, or I have considered it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think the generals are going to be left with just modifiers and have nothing to do with the dice. That's just going to be a game mechanic that shows a little bit of command, because let's say Real draws a die and he plays it on Soy, and Soy's brigade moves. Well, that was the player giving command to move Soy, but it also took command away from the allied player, because they didn't get their die drawn, right? And that die draw can be done in a manner where one person can draw all the dice, or you can alternate, or whatever. That's between you and your opponent, how you want to do that. I considered maybe if you draw a die out, then you immediately pass the bag over to your opponent so that he draws a die. But if he draws one for you, then he continues to draw until he draws one of his own. And then as soon as he draws one of his own, then he passes the bag over to his opponent. And it goes back and forth like that. But that's totally optional. I don't know if we're ever going to need to worry about anything like that. All right, well, thanks for coming out and watching this update. All I wanted to say was I have decided I'm going to do the dice draw per brigade. Well, it's going to be core color by brigade, and wanted to show you those light units, those Hanover light units, and the 95th Rifles, and that's where we're at. All right, guys, thank you for coming out and checking this out, and I'll see you in the next update.